Okay, so welcome everyone who's joining us live, and for those who are enjoying this recording at a future date, welcome. Tonight's speakers program is a back-to-school discussion with Bonita Unified School District board members Derek Bahmanou and Brittany Allison. The reason why we identified these two members of the board is one, Derek is up for re-election in this next election cycle, and Brittany is enjoying her first full term as a board member. So we wanted to get their varied perspectives as they serve our community and the school board. So we welcome those two. But before we start the formal program, allow me to go through some just general announcements. I'll call them my commercial break. Just wanted to highlight for folks, just to remind them how they can get connected and stay informed with the Bonita Democrats. We have our website. We have our private group on Facebook where we have most activity. And then we have our public face on Facebook. We have Instagram. We do post all of our speakers programs to our YouTube channel. And I do want to announce that since it is September, we are starting up our membership renewals for the year 2026. So if you are up for renewal or want to renew early, you can renew as early as today, and that will take you through all of 2026. With that said, I really want to thank our sponsor members. Our sponsor members contribute at a level that allows us to donate memberships. And our guest, one of our guest speakers, is one of those sponsor members, Derek Bahmanou, Dennis Bertone, who is a retired city council member, Jane Riggs, our LA County supervisor, and our very own immediate past president, Tracy Lee Taylor. So I want to thank you all for your sponsorship level membership from 2025. We were in fact able to extend quite a few free memberships as a result of that. I want to give everyone just a kind of a perspective of our membership growth. As of our last new member on August 21st, our membership ranks at 129. So we have experienced steady growth in what we call our active paid members. We do have quite a few window shoppers, folks who like to attend our events, whether it be our summer social or some of our in-person events. But these are active and paid members as of August 21st. So we want to thank everyone for their active participation in the membership and what we do. We'll always like to highlight our local candidates victory fund successes. Our most recent one was in the 2024 election cycle. We hope to enjoy success in 2026, but we will likely be participating in the special election on the Proposition 50 efforts. So more to come on that during our general membership meeting portion of tonight. And then this is how you can contribute to the local candidates victory fund. That fund is open specifically for 2026. And those are the races that we are going to be focused on should there be a need for a contested race. City of Laverne has 3 districts up. City of San Dimas has 2. And then, of course, we have our Bonita Unified races for 2026 that we hope to support endorse candidates. And with that, that is my commercial break. But allow me to bring it back to our 2 guests. Excuse me, I'm getting over COVID, so I still have some head stuff going on.
Sorry.
Tonight's goal is to hear from our local board members about their vision and priorities for the upcoming school year and how families and community members can support and stay engaged. So it is my pleasure to introduce 2 dedicated leaders from Bonita Unified School District School Board. Derek Bahmanou, who's trustee from Area 2, whose term again ends in 2026, and Brittany Allison, who is trustee from Trustee Area 5, and whose term ends in 2028. So I'm going to open up the floor for welcoming comments, and I will start with Derek.
Thank you very much. First, I'd like to thank Matt for moderating this. I'd like to thank the Bonita Democrats for hosting this event, and for everyone who is able to watch and participate. It's always nice to be able to talk to people and, oh, I can see you guys now. This is even better. My eyesight's not the best and I don't have my glasses on. So I'm like, oh, I recognize your voices, but I see your faces and even your kitchen. So that's great. Let's see about me. I'm 50. Recently discovered, I guess 50 is when your body starts falling apart. So had a couple little health issues that happened, and that was surprising. I have two wonderful children who are thriving in Bonita Unified. My daughter Abby is joining us. One of our new adventures, my nephew is now living with us. We're fostering him. So that's been a very interesting thing. And let's see, we've lived in San Dimas since 2011. My wife is amazing. Anyone who has ever met my wife is just like married up, and I would agree. So yeah, it's just been amazing. My family is the joy of my life. I love them very much. And my daughter, when I first campaigned, she was by my side as a little first grader, and super charming. And it's just always nice to spend time with her. I first ran, so I'm a teacher, and in when I ran in 2018, I was like, I think I can contribute just having an idea of education. And at the time, there was no educators on the board. So I ran. It was definitely very robust, a lot of walking, lost 10 pounds, great experiences, met a lot of lifelong friends in the process. And yeah, I'd like to think it's been a good thing for our family. It's been time consuming, stressful at times, but I think the benefit of being a part of something and being able to have small contributions while Bonita Unified has these big major wins has been pretty wonderful. So yeah, that's about me. I would also say when I ran, I had a couple major thrusts as far as campaign promises. I was hoping to see expanded trade pathways. I think we've accomplished that, and we have some amazing people working on that. Our culinary program at San Dimas won nationals, which was, I think, pretty amazing. I was hoping to see a 360 review, and that has been passed, and we're using it to inform goals. And I really think that's going to lead to just amazing leadership and even better leadership. We have amazing leadership, but it's always nice when you can get data to help kind of guide what the focus should be. And the one thing that we have not accomplished that I'm hoping we accomplish one day is a dual immersion pathway. So, just kind of slowly plugging away at things. Life happens, the political winds go where they may, but I think Bonita has done a great job educating kids. It's really nice to be a cheerleader in the background when that happens. And I also think that we're doing a great job educating kids with different needs and abilities, and we're helping each kid be the best person they can be. And with that, I'd like to surrender the floor to Brittany. And I'd like to also add this. I've actually really enjoyed this board. And this is just kind of like a behind the scenes thing. We've had some really great discussions where we have different points of view coming and some robust dialogue. And what I really appreciate is people are trying to find win-win solutions. How can we make sure that every discourse community gets the support that they need? So I'm very happy to work with you, Brittany. I think you've actually, for a new board member, have actually contributed in wonderful ways. Like, I do appreciate how you do try to find win-win solutions. So I just wanted to say that, as I don't think people always see the dialogue and the back and forth that board members have. And, I do appreciate the openness that you have.
Aw, thank you, Derek. I appreciate that. And I mean, I would certainly echo the sentiments that, and I'll share about this a little later, but when I first came on board, and, come January or February, a fair amount of people checked in, Matt actually being one of them. And, how has it been going? And a common response of mine is a lot smoother than I expected, And so it has been so great to be on board. And the same perspective of, 5 people who have different ideas and will ask different questions, and I'm thankful to hear, like, oh, there's a perspective that I didn't have, but I'm glad that person's in the room to share it. especially because I think, and we've all verbally said that, how can we point our perspectives back to how this is best for students?
Yes.
And it's really nice to have everyone in the room agree that, it's never going to be about getting a political win. It's never going to be about, making a statement or putting some personal reason first and foremost, but like, let's always fall back on what's best for students. And because of that, this time, like particularly this back to school season has been so exciting. It's really just been such a joy because it's my first one, right? Like election starts, you come in December and you're just kind of like thrust right in the middle of a school year. So there isn't that, back to school excitement or the, hurrah and celebration that has been such a joy to experience because it's so full of promise and purpose and all of the reasons why I signed up to do this job become evident in the back to school season because it's really being talked about and it's really being celebrated. And I think that it's been particularly exciting to come at the beginning of the school year because it's the opportunity to set goals and to refresh that perspective and to have those discussions with community members. While back in January, I said, man, it's so simple and so easy. That's not necessarily been the experience during the back to school season because that's when, parents and families and the learning curve of a new school year, and there's a lot more feedback, whether they be complaints, questions, or concerns, but there's a lot more feedback coming from parents and community members now in this month than in any previous month that I've experienced so far. And it might be like, oh, wow, is that hard? No, it's why I signed up for this. Like those emails that we've been getting, my first response is, can we set up a time to chat? I want to have a phone call with you because community connection was one of my number one campaign promises, goals, and concerns is, I wanted every member of the community to know that they can and should be connected to their school board, connected to the school district. And so being able to experience the challenges as an opportunity for growth has been just as joyful for me as the back to school events and the student performances and the celebrations. So it's really been good. I'm excited to keep doing that work. And it's even more joyful to be able to do it in a community that supports our school district so strongly. We're getting feedback because people care. So I love being able to share that you can all find your way to get more involved so that you're a part of these discussions from the very beginning rather than coming in once you have a concern, a question, or a complaint, right? Be a part of the fabric of this community is really the message that I am so excited to share from this position. So yeah, it's a great place to be.
Okay. Well, I do have a few questions that I did share with you all beforehand. So why don't we start with what are Bonita Unified School District's top priority and areas of focus for the new school year and beyond? And we can start with Derek.
Okay. Now, a couple of priorities I'm just going to hit just right off the bat. Bonita has a long history, and I think it's continuing of focusing on kids. Like we want to make sure they get the best possible education and whatever supports they need, we've been very diligent in providing. One of the things, oh, and I should add, the environment's a little chaotic right now financially. There's been maybe a little more chaos than normal. And I would say budgeting has also been something that's been one of our concerns. Beyond that, and those are pretty expansive points, I'm kind of happy about that, where we're going to be having a meeting where all of us board members are going to get together and kind of recalibrate. Like we've done this in the past where we've kind of talked about what our goals, preferences, ideas have been, and actually had a robust dialogue regarding, what we think and why we think it. And just with new board members coming on board, I think it's very important for us to kind of take a fresh look at things and see if there's any long-term planning that we can engage in that could possibly benefit our kids. It's really hard to make a pivot as a school district. Like, you'll have an idea and you're like, this is a great idea. And realistically speaking, it's going to take many years for that idea to be implemented well. So, when we have these discussions, we're not thinking about next month, the month after. What we're thinking about is how can we make our school district better for our kids and community 2, 4, 5, 7 years from now. And I'm kind of excited that, we've had a very good long-term vision, but we're also kind of recalibrating periodically to make sure that we get fresh voices and that we really are responsive to what our community needs are. I can
Yeah. I know Derek could probably take this entire question. I think the tradition of focusing on students is always going to be the top priority. I think I love the words that surround our BUSD symbol, right? Equity, focus on results, and mastery. And those priorities have to be the lens through which we see everything. And then when we're talking about where we care to apply those priorities, that's when Bonita also takes a look at the 4 A's that we've got to make sure we're spreading around: arts, activities, academics, and athletics. And I, coming from someone who did both collegiate level athletics and theater, and was a RA, like ASB type person, and graduated first in her class, if I'm bragging.
Wow.
I think that being able to articulate that these are 4 things that we are going to value is the way that you ensure, as Derek said, we're meeting all students' needs. I would say another priority that's been verbalized that maintains one of my personal priorities as well is to not just close the gaps, but focus on the gaps, right? Close the gap is a terminology that you'll hear a lot in education because you want to get your, lower performers to raise to your higher performers, right? And you want to close that gap. Whether that gap is determined by any number of demographics that oftentimes correlate to that gap, we want to make sure we close the gap. I like to flip that on focusing on the gap because oftentimes that's where kids do get forgotten, right? Whether it's ensuring that we are, accommodating neurodivergent needs in the mainstream classroom before they even reach the level of needing an IEP or 504, right? Whether it's making sure that we are focusing on financial equity issues that prevent students from accessing opportunities like a CTE program that they would like to enroll to, but possibly require transportation that they do not have in order to get there. All of those are gaps that can be easy to ignore because sometimes, especially in a high performing district like Bonita, it's easy to look at the percentage and know that, we're doing really, really great. But what I want to make sure we always remember is that those percentages are people, and the people that are missing out on any opportunities or are missing out on accommodations need to also have our full focus.
Thank you for that. And I know in the neighborhood school update that residents received, there was mention, not necessarily a commitment that we're going to actively pursue a bond measure, but where are we at with that process? Is the board queuing that up for a board vote for the 2026 cycle possibly, or we're not quite there yet?
Would you like to answer that, or should I go?
I can answer and you can fill in anything else,
Sure.
right? So, so for those that don't know, in order to go out for a bond measure, first the what the bond's going to go to needs to be completely identified. So we have been identifying and have identified those needs with our sites. The facilities improvements that would be necessary. And so we are looking and chewing on putting that on the agenda to approve for the upcoming election cycle.
Yeah, and we haven't made up our mind yet, but I do think that is
Chewing on, right? Chewing on.
Yeah, but we're definitely chewing on, and there's real needs. So it's not that we're just trying to pass. Well, we're considering passing a bond because we wanted to pass a bond. In reality, we have asbestos in Lone Hill. It's impacting the air conditioning. The rooms are hot, which negatively impact, you know, kids' ability to focus. And these are issues that we're not going to be able to solve with the general fund. We just don't have the discretionary money to come up with 6 million or 15 million or however much that's going to cost to actually upgrade our facilities. And that's just one issue. We have old classrooms, we have plumbing issues, and it's kind of like deferred maintenance. If you have deferred maintenance for a long period of time, you can address it early on and pay less. But as you kind of pretend that the problem doesn't exist, all of a sudden you have facilities needs negatively impacting our core mission, which is to educate kids. So as much as I know things are tight right now for a lot of families, I'm of the opinion that having a small investment into our long-term future will pay major dividends. In the past, our community has done that. And I think that funding that in the past we've put together has given our kids a robust education. A lot of school districts have declining enrollment. We really do not. A lot of districts did not rebound as fast from COVID. We were able to do so. So a lot of the things that we have were put in place by previous boards, and we're maximizing that. And we just want to make sure that we pass it forward, make sure our kids get the best possible education. And unfortunately, facilities and these things matter. There's also safety issues. Since I've been on the board, and I'm not trying to get into specifics, there have been fights that we could have actually responded a little differently towards if we had better security systems and cameras. There have been some racial tagging that has happened on campuses, and we would have had a better, quicker response if we had better cameras. There are definitely safety needs involved in this as well. And I would also add, asbestos is never great. You know, asbestos is the problem where everything is good as long as you don't disturb it in theory. But when your kids and your friends' kids go to those schools, you know, that's not super comforting. If the asbestos was in my house, I'd want it removed. But I could take a loan out and get that done. And in the same vein, I think if we have these major needs that need to get done, that's something to consider. Because for me, I have a vested interest. My kids go to this school, my friends' kids go to this school, and it's something I really care about. And if it's something you care about, it's something worth investing in.
Well, thank you for that. You touched on the budget piece being a challenge. And one of the questions I advanced to you both is, what challenges do you anticipate, and how is the board preparing to address them? So I imagine budget is one of those. Are there any other challenges that you foresee that the board is going to have to address in the coming year or years?
Well, yes. Brittany, would you like to start, or
You can start this one.
Right. I would say budget is a big one because we can deal with people who are passionate about issues. We can organize things that things can work better. We can't print money. And, you know, when we have inflation being caused by, I would say, increased deficit spending based on a regressive tax system push, that makes our dollar less valuable, and it costs more money to buy stuff. Also, when people are being squeezed by, I would say, tariffs and increased costs, what ends up happening is people have less discretionary funds, and that puts a burden on all families. Where a family might be willing to pay $20 for something before this, they might be more resistant to that. You add on, we have more special ed kids, like every district, and that costs money because we don't pay, the state and the federal government doesn't just pay for the needs, they pay unduplicated funds. So when we have kids who need multiple services, we have a squeeze there. The reason why I'm mentioning the funding aspect, and I know that wasn't your direct question, is it impacts every other issue. So, you know, you want to make sure you have the best special ed supports, and we really do. And we have a decent part of our budget that goes towards that. But if we had special ed fully funded, we could do more. And that's actually driving some of our choices, the lack of funding. I would say other issues. Politics. Not that politics are bad. I think politics are good. It's better than war. This is how different ideas fight in a community to decide which direction to go. But there's an issue of wedge issues, where instead of people seeing schools as our space, as something open to all of us, it becomes people wanting to make it their space. And the idea of the common good, of us with different beliefs, different backgrounds, demographics, all being together in one place as a family. Every time those wedge issues fight, and there's always a new one. This week was, I think, hygiene products and bathrooms. That was this week's, but there's always going to be a new one. And the problem really is, we have to follow laws. So on some things, it's not really our choice, but it also, these fights, and I think they have a political motive behind them sometimes. It takes away from the good work of education that's happening. And I really think if you have access for all groups, it's not just one side schools, it's everyone's school. If you have equity, we're trying to help every side, no matter what your belief is, no matter who you are, no matter anything you identify with. We want to make sure that you get supported. We want to make sure you become the best version of yourself. And these political issues, I can understand why people look at them individually, but in general, I feel like it makes an us versus them mentality, which I think it just kind of chips away at the idea of community. But that's just my opinion. Not saying politics are bad. I'm just saying sometimes it's a little passionate and there's a deleterious effect.
Brittany, would you like to add to that?
I mean, in addition to the budgetary issue, my second greatest challenge, I would say, is also the divisive nature of community discourse. Now, I mean, we see it from the top on down, and we see it everywhere around the world, right? And I think that to Derek's point, also the challenge specifically for us as board members, the ones who are tasked with interfacing with the community and offering that bridge of connection, is ensuring that everything that we do is seeking to turn down the temperature of that. And one of the things that I oftentimes like to remind people is that we are neighbors, right? And we all want what is good for kids and schools. And yes, there are wildly different opinions sometimes on what is good for kids in schools. But if we can start with the belief that we all want what is good, perhaps we wouldn't find it so horrible when someone thinks differently than us, if we believed that they want just what's best and they just happen to see that differently. But because of the way that politics has been headed, folks are seeing different opinions as being a symbol of your morality or your righteousness or your goodness, or sometimes even your worth. And so making sure that we are maintaining that the community, and certainly an education system, is meant to be a marketplace of ideas. And so we don't benefit that marketplace of ideas and those aspects that are fundamental to education and frankly to democracy, right? We don't benefit either of those things if our goal is to squash the opposition. Our goal needs to be to do what's best in the avenue that we're working. So I think that's probably a pretty big challenge. Also, community engagement and that sense of belonging from parents and students, while not a large issue, is still, I think, a challenge. As someone that has worked on the community side for a long time, and then has also gotten to see it from the school district side, we are a highly engaged school district, right? I'll start off by saying that, our parents show up and they're supportive and all of that, but we are still living in a busy society of parents that have long working hours, and it can be difficult to be involved. And so when I look at our survey results and see that, student sense of belonging is way lower than I'm comfortable with it being, and parents reporting of feeling welcomed at school and feeling heard by school district and community leaders is also lower than I'm comfortable with it being. Even though it's pretty high, it's lower than I'm comfortable with it being. I think that reaching out and pulling people in a authentic and connecting way is challenging.
Well, and if I'm going to kind of pivot back to a point, I think one thing we have to safeguard is that everyone has the right to exist in our schools. And I think if you do that across the board, what we're saying is everyone is welcome. And I'll give you two different polls, and I'll give you an example of that. So we had a staff member, wonderful person, actually teaches art. My son loved her and just had the best things to say about her. And then all of a sudden there was an issue because some people got mad that there was a trans staff. And we're like, I did not know that, but that person's doing their job with excellence. Their status doesn't matter at all. And, you know, if you talk to people, you're going to find out that you have similar hopes, you have similar dreams, and they really are someone who cares for a kid. On the flip side, on the other side, I think there was a Bible study happening at one of the schools, and the church might be on more on the political side. And you had people on the other side very upset that this Bible study was happening. And again, both examples, you have people who have the right to exist as themselves. And I think if we just give that courtesy, saying, hey, look, I'm me, you're you, and we have different beliefs and different positions, but really this is a shared resource and all of us have the right to exist here. What's going to end up happening is instead of us fighting over little things, we might find out that we have more common ground than we thought. And I think that's something that we're all working towards.
Thank you. You know what? I do have a few questions, but I'm going to open it up to the folks who are with us live. If you have a question, just raise your hand and or unmute and ask away. Do I have any questions? Okay.
Well, I'll
Susan?
say if I can, I don't have a question. I just say thank you. You guys are doing a good job, and I love the emphasis on everybody is welcome and everyone has a right to exist, because I feel very strongly about that. And but yeah, we have a great district, and great districts happen when you have great leadership and a board that puts kids first. And you know, the time I was working there, I always felt like the boards we had, you guys and the ones before, we're really just focused on that. And when you have that and like a super supportive community like we have, you're gonna have a great district. So thank you, because I know you guys spend a lot of time. It is being a board member, and Matthew's board member too. I mean, it's not like just show up for the meeting. I mean, it is a lot of work. So a lot of work for staff too. But you know, so thank you for being willing to do that.
And if I could piggyback on that, we have amazing staff at Bonita, and not just adequate, I mean, amazing staff. And that's from the top on down. I've been there long enough where I've seen either every single person in executive cabinet and a lot of the principals and directors either getting promoted or getting their job. And you look at their resume, we're hiring the best of the best, people with great education, great experience, great, I guess, people of renown, people who've done stuff and are highly respected in their fields. And just to see people who are very good at their job being put in these positions and really having a lot of success. And I think our system really helps that happen. I think it's a good thing. We've hired several principals. Their resumes were stellar. So I think it's not just the board kind of being supportive, but really when you hire amazing staff members, they're going to do great work. And I think our kids benefit from that.
Absolutely.
Tracy?
Hi there. So I'm just wondering if you all have regular meetings with the president and or members of the teachers union and the classified union.
I have talked to them periodically. So if someone has an issue, they will get a hold of you. The primary point person who talks to them on the day-to-day basis will be Matt. He's the one who kind of organizes stuff, and he does a great job. Like, I've really appreciated how open and honest and clear he communicates. So I've never seen any discrepancy in the communication I've had with him and the communication I hear from other people that communicate with him. But we have amazing unions. They have been very supportive of our kids. They do their job super well, and yeah, we have great unions. I'm very appreciative of that collaboration we have with them.
And same answer for me. No standing meetings. We do get the updates and reports on our superintendents, regular meetings with them. And so I think that, you know, to Derek's points, when that is a good working relationship, then it lets you know that the system is working as it should. And then, you know, perhaps it isn't necessary for board members to insert themselves into the system working as it should, is kind of what my belief is. But that is not to say that if they wanted to have a meeting, I would say no. Like, I would say yes every time they asked, if they wanted to have that meeting, and, you know, talk to them as the needs arise.
Yeah, I would be the first one to say that Bonita is a hugely different district than Ontario Montclair. But if the people that you talk to most are the administrators, and you rarely actually hear personally from the teachers, the classroom people, the, you know, the certificated and the classified, that it would be a good idea to just chat with them once in a while. It's not that you don't trust the superintendent to give you the right information. It's just keeping in contact with really important groups of people.
And those discussions do happen. So yes, I've talked to union presidents. Also, several of us visit schools often. So, you know, I would say my wife's involved with the PTA at Extrand. I know Brittany's involved in the PTA as well. And, you know, our interactions, there's a lot of people we bump into. So it's not that we never hear from other people. I would say there's a lot of people who see you as a safe person, and you hear a lot of different points of view. And I think that's good. So I wouldn't say that we only hear from Matt and we are sequestered from what.
Didn't infer that. Just
yeah. So we do have those discussions. But I'm going to say it's not like root and eyes where, hey, it's once a month, I need to call this person or that person. It's more of a, you know, when we see them, we chat, we say hello. We'll talk to people periodically because they're in our lives and we see them quite regularly. But if there's a problem, they have your phone number, they're calling, or they're talking to you at some other time, and you have those robust discussions. So
right, it's on them too. I mean, if they wanted to talk to you, they would contact you. Just I was curious.
Well, and I mean, and I would say that the people I actually probably do talk to teachers and classified staff more than I talk to administration, just by function of my involvement in my kids' school, and because their involvements are not tied just to their campus, I'm also connected to other campuses, you know? So I think that the conversations that I have with their teachers and the people that are on campus, the, you know, directors and teachers of the plays that they do at the high school, or the, you know, people who are running the activities of my nieces and nephews at the middle school, the fact that I'm connected to those people on a more personal level means that the rapport that exists, I would think, provide that fruitful insight of the ground level, because I certainly agree with your sentiment that that is likely the most important true picture to ensure that we're getting. And so it's important. I would want to see every board member doing that.
Yeah, and again, not inferring that your superintendent does not give you good information. That is not the point.
Well, and
absolutely. But it's the perspective, right? Even if his information is good information, the perspective that a teacher or classified staff individual can share with me is going to be something that like they possibly have not shared with him and he wouldn't even have, right? Like the custodian that locks and unlocks the gate every time I drop off my kid is going to have a perspective to share with me that the superintendent has never even heard, you know? And so I think seeking to be a person that is well involved and connected with all of the different elements of our school systems is 1,000% vital. But I am thinking like, oh, maybe I should reach out to those presidents of the unions. That would be a really good idea if they'd be open to it.
Another thing I think we do, and yeah, good. Another thing we do, and I think it gives us some insight, is there is a 360 review. So, you know, when you actually have authentic data that is not being filtered and people can say things freely, which is, I believe, what our 360 review does. We not only talk to people, we not only hear reports from Matt, but we're also getting data, and this data is being used to guide leadership's goals. So, you know, I would say that we have an advantage of data that a lot of other districts do not have. And I'm very excited to see how that helps our amazing staff become even better.
Cool.
Thank you for that. Now, I do have you've kind of touched on this, but I will ask it formally just in case you wanted to add.
Oh, you just got muted.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Considering the external challenges and threats to public education, how is this district supporting student learning and well-being? Is there anything specifically that the district is doing?
Would you like to go first?
Sure. You'll probably have great things to add after. I was trying to think of like very, very specific examples of what they're doing. But what I actually most thought of is what we're not doing, which is getting caught up in noise, right? And I think that's something that I have seen in other districts and news articles or whatever. You hear school boards getting caught up in a political fight or in a lawsuit or in other things because of getting caught in the noise and then responding to it. But then on the flip side, as I'm thinking of the answer to this response, I do sometimes wonder if when I was a, involved community member, community organizer, complaining parent, was I the noise that the board and the district wasn't willing to get involved in, right? Like there were some things that I, on a parent and concerned community member side, was wanting, was advocating, was concerned about, and was feeling unresponded to. And I mean, and this is almost a decade ago now. And I think it's interesting because on this side, I now understand a little bit of something Derek actually oftentimes will share. So I'm sorry, I might steal a little bit of your answer, but about the value in a school board not being the quickest to respond to a given issue because of wanting to kind of see how other school boards experiment with how they solve a problem and then make the best choice, even if it's not the first choice. So what's tricky about that is you don't really know what's noise unless you're able to think retrospectively, right? Because even still, I can think about 2016, 2017 Brittany calling the superintendent with concerns, and like, darn it, I do wish that the thing that I wanted to have happened 10 years ago, but it is a slow moving ship and we do want to be methodical. So I don't know if that's a non-answer answer, but I think it is a little bit about wanting to move at a pace that can ensure that we're being intentional and methodical, and while maintaining transparency and community connection and all of those things. How's that for you?
That was good. That was good. Derek,
one
did
of-
you want to add to that?
Sure. One of the things I think Bonita has done well is if you go to our meetings, you're going to notice a focus on kids. And we're focusing on the education our kids get because that's actually what our priority is. And we have a lot of support systems for our kids. If you go to SHAP, and I'm just going to kind of start there and move up, you have a lot of kids who are maybe haven't had the best experiences at school. And you go to the SHAP graduation, you're going to hear kids who had their perspective turned. Like they realized that they can do this. They might have felt a little bit beaten down and they realize that they're enough, they have value. And, what's interesting is these kids who could have been forgotten end up having a very different point of view about school. They end up going to Mount SAC, trade schools, and a variety of places. But it's really nice to see people who are going one direction turn around. And I think that is something that we do. We have a robust mental health program. A lot of school districts do not have the mental health program that we have, and we've invested a lot of money in that. And mental health, sometimes people won't notice the effect when things are working. But when things don't work, all of a sudden you notice that, oh my gosh, why don't we have something to help these kids? And I would much rather avoid problems and solve them before they become bigger than not address them at all. We have a robust trade pathway. We have a variety of different pathways because not everyone should go to college and not everyone will make as much money if they go to college. We have a lot of people who are underemployed. And the fact that we have different pathways for kids so they can kind of match their interests and talents to their future careers, I think will actually have, really pay off in the future. So one of the things I think is the best about Bonita is the test scores are phenomenal. I think we're in the top 9% of all unified school districts in the area. And if you take other data into it, such as socioeconomic data and the like, there's no one in our class. Our kids, if you look at our demographics, we are scoring by far the best in reading comprehension and math. I think one of our elementary schools, X-Strand, had a 10-point jump in math. Maybe it was 12. I might be underselling it. Bonita High School was #1 in English, #2 in math. We had a culinary program that won nationals, not just state nationals. So when you actually have the focus on the learning and the experiences and the life-changing impact that our kids are experiencing, I think you have a school district that focuses on the fundamentals. And I really think that's our purpose.
Thank you for that. It looks like I skipped the first question I said I was going to ask you guys. And you kind of touched on this and you're welcome. What excites you most about waking up as a school board member for the Bonita Unified School District? And I'll start with Brittany.
From someone who sat in your chair for a while, I thought as the moderator, you just skipped that question because we touched on it a little bit in our intro. But I was like, no, Matt, I had more. But really, because I did touch on it, my the ability to converge my passion for education and public education and even public policy as it relates to education with community work, community organizing, and community connection it's really just been a godsend of a position for me. I went to college. I studied education at ULV. I worked in the classroom. I was teaching. I thought I was going to be in the classroom for the rest of my life. And then, when we had our family, when we started having kids, and me and Thomas were assessing, what we wanted and needed from our community, I shifted my focus to community work through our nonprofit and doing, community engagement workshops and connecting with local elected officials and really trying to pursue more of an advocacy path of trying to envision what I believed Laverne needed to be for my family and for other families like mine. And so being able for those two things to really meld together beautifully in a position like school board has just been it's just been great. It's been really exciting. Like I mentioned in my opening comments, to be able to have those hard conversations with community members, especially being in the like trenches of having a fourth grader and a first grader and a baby. Like I am invested in this community and in this school for literally 18 years. So when we talk about the seeds that need to be planted in order for something to happen 2-3 years out, that matters to me. My youngest child hasn't even started school by then, right? Like something that's not going to happen for 5-10 years out. I am deeply invested in those results and in the future of the school district. And so all of that is just so exciting.
For me, the things that I appreciate, I actually like policy. So the idea that, you know, we have a great board, we have great staff. A lot of things would happen whether or not I'm involved in the board, quite honestly. I have a huge confidence in the culture of Bonita to know that things are going to work out. But it is always nice when you can push, advocate, and see a small benefit that happened because of your contribution. So, you know, those are moments I really appreciate. Other moments I like, it is wonderful. Like I've grown up in a sense, or my kids have grown up in the school district. I'm able to see kids I have known for many, many years have these huge life events. And it's really a privilege to be a background character in their story. You know, you get to kind of see them do these things. You get to, you know, witness their excitement and all the hard work that they put into something. And you get to be there, you know, supporting them. And I've really enjoyed that as well. So those are a couple of things that are probably the most meaningful to me.
Thank you. Okay, so one more question I did share with you, and then we'll go to, we are hitting the hour mark, and then we'll go to closing statements. So the last question I did ask for you guys to be able to respond to was, what opportunities exist for parents and community partners to get involved in Bonita Unified School District and our individual school sites?
I'll go first on this one. I made a list. We have, you know, classroom volunteer, PTA. Our PTAs always need extra support. You have school site council. You can volunteer on many of our sport and other leagues. You can be a part of a community group. You can, we have different councils. We have amazing community groups too. Let me just do a quick plug. We have the Laverne St. Demas Education Foundation, the Rotary, the Masonic Lodge, the Seroptimus, and probably some that I haven't mentioned. And each one of these community groups ends up supporting our kids. And if you're interested, this is to anyone watching and everyone here, the Seroptimus, and I'm not a member of Seroptimus, but they do amazing work for our kids. They're having a fundraiser September 27th at, I think, 6 p.m. It could be 7, at 6 p.m. at Hillcrest. Super fun. I went one time last year and my wife and I had a great time. We're going to go again, and we weren't able to put together a table, but if anyone would like to go to a super fun event that actually raises money and supports our kids, we'd love to have you there. The short answer is just please get involved, whether it's at your local school site, whether it's going and to a fundraiser and eating at one of the numerous places that supports our kids, whether it's joining a community group so you can help raise money that supports our kids. There's so many different avenues, and our teachers do a great job. Our families do a great job. We have so many people who are contributing, but it's also our community. Our communities do a great job of helping our kids get that little extra advantage that some communities don't have. And I think the more we pour into our kids, the better results they're going to have and the better neighborhood we're going to have.
Yeah,
Brittany, would you like to add to
yeah,
that?
I mean, I'm impressed with your list. I love that you mentioned that, you know, there's these community groups that aren't directly connected with a school site, but your involvement in those community groups, certainly with a like vision, value, and passion to connect to the school site, is you know, super advantageous. I had to answer a brief question from my 9-year-old. I assume you also answered the Educational Foundation and the numerous opportunities they have. And what I would say is that it's not just about being involved. Like, I need to be a member of this group. I need to be a member of the PTA. I need to be involved year round. But almost all of these organizations have committees where you can be involved for a given event, right? For example, the Educational Foundation has their second annual wellness fair coming up on November 16th, which I chaired and started last fall. And so we have some people who are not necessarily a part of the foundation generally, but latch in to be involved in the wellness fair or latch in to be a part of the golf tournament. I mean, there's not just PTA at Roynan, but there's, the beautification committee that recycles every single Friday morning. And, anybody who's ever driven down D Street and has loved the fact that the chain link fence is covered with beautiful vines, you have the beautification committee to thank for that. And we have folks who are not connected to the site in a specific way. Like they're not parents, they're not grandparents, but they show up and sort recyclables and drive them off to get that CRV cash to fund the beautification of a campus. And there's examples like that at almost every single school site that you could get involved. And then every single event that all of these PTAs and foundations have a need for business sponsorships and community connections that way also. So it is absolutely true that just like it takes a village to raise a child, it takes the village to have a great school district. So find your way to participate and certainly do that.
Thank you. Thank you. So we will go to closing statements, and we'll start with Derek and finish off with Brittany.
Well, just as far as the closing statement, I just want to say thank you for having me here. It's been great seeing everyone and catching up and just kind of talking about a district that I think is doing an amazing job for our kids. And yeah, that's about all I have. I could rehash points, but I'm just kind of happy to be here and see everyone.
Yeah, also thank you so much for having us and giving us the chance to share about the things that excite us and where the district is going, and for your interest in opportunities to get involved. I would also echo and say a little bit of what I've said before, which is please contact me, contact us if you have any questions, suggestions, or concerns, literally about anything, right? Like we just listed a bunch of ways to get involved. If it dawns on you like, I'd like to know what the best fit is for me, let's have a conversation and talk about that. And, I really am interested in learning more about our community members and how they'd like to get involved. Just like I mentioned, we've got busy parents that have a hard time being involved. I want to learn from them about ways that we could make it easier, right? We need that feedback loop, and you are a vital part of that. So never hesitate to reach out.
And to piggyback on that point, and this is just kind of a open-ended statement, but we really do look at all of the feedback we get. Sometimes you got to filter out tone because, people in crisis aren't always the nicest, but we look at, is there something we can do to make Bonita Unified even better? So whether or not you're completely satisfied with the response, sometimes that is the case. We usually don't hear from people when they're happy. We usually hear from people when they're upset. But I just want to echo the fact that we take these messages seriously, and we're very reflective in how we could help give every group access and help every group feel comfortable in our schools.
Thank you for that. And so as we conclude tonight's program, I want to thank board members Derek Bahmanou and Brittany Allison for joining us. And thank you so much for your dedicated service to our communities, and our school district. We greatly appreciate your service, and thank you so much. Looking forward to your run in 2026, Derek, and your continued service, Brittany, in your first term. So that concludes our speakers program. I'm going to turn off our recording, and we'll do a quick business meeting for the remainder of probably about 10-15 minutes.
Hello.
I